Hello, everyone. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for New Wired and Me Learning's first joint webinar, where we're going to be talking today how New Wired's digital adoption platform can really help build an effective onboarding program and give your new starters or get your new starters up to speed with all of the systems that they use and ensure that they're using them all correctly and as they should from day one, and without the need for spending hours in training or using a buddy system. So thank you very much for joining us today. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the content, I guess it's a good time for us to introduce ourselves. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Paul Pierce. I represent Me Learning. And for the past 6 years, I've been working with Me Learning to help organizations use our digital e-learning to train their employees on how to use complex computer systems. So whether it be case management systems, ERP systems, systems in fintech, we really help build excellent or outstanding onboard experiences using our digital training content, everything from new starters all the way up to helping organizations implement new systems. So they might have thousands of staff to train. And we help them with everything from a training needs analysis to the creation of digital learning, as well as offering virtual support training as well, to really ensure that all of their staff are knowledgeable and they have the confidence that they need to use the systems that they use every day and enable them to really focus on their core duties. So that's it from me. As I said, my name is Paul Pierce, and I'm going to hand over to Katarzyna now.
Hello, everyone. My name is Katarzyna Polachova, and I am working as a customer success and QA specialist at New Wired. In the scope of quality assurance team, I am responsible for testing of the new features implemented into our product. And as a part of a customer success team, I do the live demonstrations of our product to potential customers. And I am also responsible for the knowledge-based articles in our New Wired Learning Center. So welcome to today's webinar.
Thank you, Katarzyna. So you might be wondering, what is our relationship and why have we teamed up? Well, Me Learning, as I said, are experts in delivering digital content training, and so we thought by partnering with New Wired and using their overlay technology, which allows for that content to be seen within app on screen, it'd be a fantastic way to deliver the content and bring the technology to the UK market. So at the start of the year, it's the turn of the year, Me Learning and New Wired have teamed up, and we became their exclusive partner in the UK. So we deal with all their UK-based inquiries, and we help with all of the first-line support as well via our UK help desk. So it's a really exciting partnership. We're really excited working together. And as I said, I'm going to move on now onto the topic of today and take a look at today's agenda. So there's going to be a little bit more from me just to introduce the agenda, and then I'm going to hand back over to Katarzyna to do a little bit of more of an in-depth introduction to New Wired. Then it's going to come back to me, and I'm going to talk about the topic of the day and why building an outstanding onboard experience for your new staff is really key to get that nailed on, and how, in fact, we can help to build that excellent first impression and build an outstanding onboarding experience for your new staff. Then I'm going to hand back over to Katarzyna, and she's going to do a product demonstration so you can see what it is I've been talking about and what that actually looks like on screen. And then at the end, finally, we're going to recap and then hang over the Q&A session at the end. So we've scheduled this call for around about 1 hour. We expect to be finished with our sort of demonstration and my talking points within about 45 minutes. So that will give us plenty of time to answer any questions at the end. So if you do have any questions as they come to your mind, please feel free to use the chat function and just shoot any questions our way. As I said, we've got about 15 minutes towards the end of this presentation in which we can answer all those questions for you. So with that being said, I'm going to hand back over to Katarzyna, and she's going to talk to you a little bit more about New Wired itself.
Okay, so let me say a few words to introduce our company to you. On this slide, you can see a short overview of the history of our company and how we have been expanding our product through the years. So NewWired was established 7 years ago and has teams in Italy and in the Czech Republic. And we have been launching NewWired journeys, tips, and playbooks one by one. And I will show you all these 3 parts of our product a little bit later in more details in our live demonstration of the product. We can move to the next slide, and I would like to introduce the digital adoption solution to you now, because NewWired focuses on digital adoption solution and was selected the most valued digital adoption platform by users for the 2nd year in a row. We are really proud of such a success. And what does the digital adoption solution or the digital adoption platform means? We bring a complex guidance solution, which is deployed directly in the target application. This kind of guidance allows the users to be really closely in touch with the application, to be deeply in the application during the whole process of the onboarding, training, or learning how to work with the application. And learning by doing is definitely the most effective way how to improve the user's experience level and performance. And another important point to mention here is that the time spent on support is significantly reduced when using in-app guidance. This is really great. And on the next slide, I would like to say a few more words about the digital adoption solution in general. In the scope of onboarding and training, this kind of solution brings step-by-step guidance, interactive walkthroughs, but also the contextual guidance, which is represented by useful tooltips, and also analytics and insights, which helps to managers to how to track and analyze the user behavior and performance. So all these 3 parts or tools I will cover later in my detailed live demonstration of our product. This was just a general introduction. And on the next slide, I would like to briefly compare the learning, how it looks like when using traditional methods of the learning and using NewWired solution. By the traditional training, we mean watching some learning videos, tutorials, studying some knowledge-based materials or training materials. And you can see the curve of the traditional training is the bottom one, which is the red and green one. And you can see that if a learner is trying to learn using these methods, he is always coming to the point that he can't remember everything from the training and he needs to be retrained. He needs to go back to the training materials, go back to the videos and watch it again, and then go back to the application. This is really time consuming and might be also demotivating for the learner, because this is not a good way for training. And you can see that with the NewWired solution, the learning curve is much more stable, much more constant, because during the whole process of learning or onboarding or training, the user is really deeply in the application and he skipped this forgetting gaps, and he is not facing such issues as when using traditional methods of the training. And before I will show you all this magic in the real demonstration of our product, I am now passing the word back to Paul.
Thanks, Katarina. Yes, so back to the topic of the day, and onboarding, and why is it really important for your organization to get this right? There's been a number of studies and a lot of information is available and freely available out on the internet all around this topic, but I've pulled some together and looking at the importance of creating a great online experience and making sure that first impression counts. First of all, the actual recruitment process itself is pretty expensive. When you take into consideration everybody's effort that goes into finding and identifying top talent and bringing them into the organization. If you can imagine all the time that takes for those individuals, your HR team, your heads of service, whoever that may be. And by the time you take into consideration your, the pension contributions that you have to make, the training costs, even the recruitment fees, the cost of actually finding a new individual, bringing them on board, and ramping them up so they're up to 100% competency is actually a very expensive process. It's going to take anywhere between 15 and 200% of whatever their annual salary is to actually identify them, bring them on board, obviously depending on their job role and their salary expectations. But once you've actually gone through that process, it's really interesting to see how much, like we always think about it in our human interactions, and quite often we get a bit anxious about making a good first impression when it comes to people. But that's very true also from a business standpoint, because I was quite shocked to see that if you have gone to the trouble of finding these talented individuals, you're bringing them on board, and their expectations fail to meet, their onboarding process failed to meet their expectations, 50% of those people actually are thinking about leaving that company within the first 45 days, which I thought was quite a striking statistic. But it actually skyrockets all the way up to 80% of those people if they feel undertrained, so they haven't been given the tools and the knowledge and the confidence that they need to be able to get on with their core duties. Around 88% of those people are actually going to leave or think about leaving the company. It's also quite striking the effects of actually having an onboarding program in place and what effects that can have on these new starters. So for organizations who actually had an onboarding process in place, you could expect to see the productivity of those new people increase by 70%. And if you have a highly effective onboarding experience in place, the numbers are getting up to around 90% of all of those individuals are going to be highly engaged in their work. They've got clarity about their roles, and effectively they get more of an emotional commitment to the company. It's almost very much like what we have with people when we meet them. If they make a first good impression, you tend to like them. And it's very much the same way when it comes to things in the business world. And I can sort of talk about this, before I move on to the next slide, I'll talk about this in kind of a very personal experience, because in a previous role of mine, I worked for a company who had their very own piece of SaaS software. So they were a SaaS solution company, and I had a really great experience in terms of going through the interview process. I had the opportunity to speak to the head of HR, the CEO of the company, my head of service, etc. And during this process, they promised me, we've got a world-class onboarding experience. We can't wait to have you as part of the team. So from my perspective, I was very, very excited about to start work with this new company. So on my first day, I make the train journey to London. I get there, and the world-class onboarding experience turned out to be a little bit oversold during my interview process. And in reality, what it was a very nice welcome email, but it was a welcome email with a spreadsheet attached to it. And within the spreadsheet, it just had a list of names, people that I needed to introduce myself to within the company, all these heads of service, heads of department. And below that was a list of all of the systems that I needed to log into. And again, it had people that I needed to book some time with so they could tell me how to use these systems. And I was looking through these systems. There was, the CRM system, the Salesforce, and a HR system, a learning management system. And then there was their own piece of SaaS software. And I was looking through the people that I had to book in some time with, and I was thinking to myself, so I really I need to take up an hour and a half of like the VP of products time so he can sort of talk me through how to use, their SaaS solution. But nonetheless, I went ahead, I booked in time with all of these individuals so I could get my training in and understand these systems. But as he was the VP of product, it was not really too much of a surprise to say that he was quite busy. I didn't really get the chance to book in with him that week. So it wasn't until the end of week 2 that I eventually got to spend some time with the VP of product so he could teach me all about it. But I thought there's no way, as me an individual, I'm going to go to that meeting, you know, not knowing anything at all. I wanted to make the most of that meeting. I wanted to be talking about, you know, what's the future of this product? What do the releases look like? What do the features do? What are the use cases? Can you tell me some excellent customer stories? Things around that. But in reality, that's not what happened. I obviously logged into that system ahead of my meeting. As I said, it wasn't until another 2 weeks before I actually got the time with the VP of product. And I thought, there's no way I can go there without knowing anything. So I logged in. I tried to orientate myself around the system. And as it was quite a complex piece of software, it was just, I mean, it was overwhelming, the amount of information that was on screen. There were pie charts, line graphs, all different types of reports. And I thought to myself, I actually don't know where to start with this. So I couldn't really fathom the system out by myself. So what I did do was every time I got to the opportunity to speak to a colleague, working remotely at this point, bear in mind, so it's not like I could just tap somebody on the shoulder and ask them how to do this, or what does this report mean, for example. But I managed to cobble together some informations, and you know, I did make it to that meeting, and I did feel like, you know, he was quite impressed with what I'd learned so far. But for me, as an experience from going to being very, very excited about, and you know, joining this new company, getting up to speed, having a great onboarding experience, and then the reality being actually you're not going to know anything about the main thing that we do here for a couple of weeks because you haven't been able to book in with the guy, and during that time it's just been playing on your mind, and you know, you haven't really been able to enhance all of the conversations and things that you've had with other people because you're still trying to piece all of these things together. So with all that being said, as I said, it was a bit of I felt a bit deflated, it was a bit of a disappointing experience overall, and I guess eventually I became one of those statistics because I'm not actually with the company anymore, as you can tell. But I wanted to show you what that might have looked like in comparison if we had something like New Wired's digital adoption platform within that system or applied to the system. So instead of me on the first time logging into that system and just being overwhelmed with graphs and information and reports that I didn't understand, there was lots of lingo used by the company, which is information you're just not born with. You need to learn that stuff. If we had had New Wired's digital adoption platform applied to that piece of software, upon my first login, I could have been given an entire digital tour of that screen. I could have understood exactly what all of those graphs actually meant and put them into context into context, which I understood as my role as a new member of staff in that organization. So I wouldn't have had the anxiety of like being overwhelmed by things. I would have been taken through a tour that would orientate me around the screen, get me used to what I was seeing, pass on some information about the lingo, and get me comfortable with the actual software itself. I could have also had processes which were relevant to me. So if I needed to run new reports, for example, I could be taken step by step through that actual process directly within the system. There's no need to I wouldn't have had to have left. I wouldn't have had to try to tap somebody on the shoulder and ask them to explain anything to me, as the system itself is telling me all of this via the overlay technology. I mentioned there was lots of lingo and a lot of report information which were just referred to by codes, none of which made any sense to me as a new person. Well, I could have had unintrusive hints or tips just overlaid into particular parts of the system just to make that overall experience nice and smooth, getting me knowledgeable about the system and actually learning things as I do them, rather than spending time like an hour and a half with the VP of product, which I keep mentioning. And the great thing about it is that all of this information and all of this help guidance is available on demand directly in the system when and where you need it. So I wouldn't have to worry about making excellent notes every time I had a training session with someone. I didn't need to worry about that. It was one less thing that during my onboarding experience that I had to worry about. I could have focused on the much more important things which people think about when they're actually onboarding in the reality of things, which is building new relationships with people, your new colleagues, your new potential customers. Those are the sorts of things that really enhance the onboarding experience for those individuals, reduce that stress of worrying about something in the back of your mind. And then, as I said, I could focus on those really key and valuable interactions that I have with people. So I've talked for quite a while now, and I've hopefully whetted your appetite a little bit for what it is we're talking about. But I'm going to hand back over now to Katerina, who's now going to show you what that looks like in reality.
Okay. So I will share my screen now. And I hope you can see the CRM application, which we use for usually for the demonstrations of our product. And let's imagine that we are accessing this application for the first time. Maybe first I would like to mention that my live demonstration will cover 3 perspectives. I would like to show you our product from the end user point of view, also from the content creator's perspective, and at the end I would like to show you also the manager's insights. So let's take the first one, and this is the end user perspective. When we see this CRM application, all the guidance is included or hidden inside this triangle with help text, which we call overlay or launcher. And by simple click on this launcher, I can see the launcher panel, which brings the overview of all the guidance which is available here for me. And let's show the example of the onboarding for newcomers, the journey. I can simply click on this play button and the journey starts playing to me. So journeys can be done like they can bring information. Also in some step there can be general information for the user, so he can easily get oriented in the application, what is the application for, and what are the different sections of the application for. So this is first step is like a little bit informative for me as for the new user who is accessing the application for the first time. And by clicking the next button, I am moving from one step to another one, and I can get useful tips where I can find different parts of or different tasks of my application. If I will create some opportunities and accounts, I will see them here. And in the next step, I'm informed that I will now start training in the sales section. So there can be also the steps like click here to move somewhere. So I am really, as a new user, navigated step by step where to click, what to do, how I can access the specific parts of the application. And now I am informed that I see the list of existing opportunities, and I will be navigated how to create a new opportunity in the next journey. And I can simply click this link and I will be directed to the next journey, which is a more detailed journey, navigating the user how to complete specific tasks. So if I click create button and click create opportunity, then I can see that I should fill in all the fields with the star symbol. So I can have also like some tips inside the bubble which are adding me what to do. So now I can start some, let's say, some name of the new opportunity here. And here I can see the information that if I start typing, I will be able to choose from the existing accounts, and I can move to the next step. I can click to the calendar icon and I can select date, which is filled here, and move to the next step. And this is the information for me that if I hover this tip icon, the currency converter appears to me. So if I want to, let's say, convert some amount here to see it in different currency, I can do it, for example, from this tip. Now I will put the amount here and I move to the next step. I can see that I should select an option from this drop down and I should click save to complete this action. I will not do it now, not to save some random or some not correct opportunity. So I will cancel it now. And I would like to show you one more interesting tool or very helpful tool for the users, which is called preview or slideshow. If I, for example, want to go back to some steps of the journey and I don't want to play all the journey again, I can just simply click this preview button and I can see all the steps in this slideshow mode or in this preview mode, so that I can just simply go through all the steps and recall if I, for example, don't remember some specific step. So this is also a very useful tool for the user. This was really like two simple journeys, but the journeys may be even much more complex, going through multiple applications, multiple tools, navigating the user really to do a lot of different steps in different applications. So this is really a complex solution. And this was the end user perspective. And now I would like to show you the content creator's point of view. So this is the point of view of those who are preparing these journeys, this guidance for the users. So for this, we are using one of the most important parts of our product, and this is called Newart Editor. In the Newart Editor, you can see the browser window. You can see the completely same CRM application as I was showing to you in the browser for the end user. But I have this sidebar here, which allows me to create all these guidance. And we have like three most important parts in the editor, and these are called journeys, tips, and playbooks. And I will now introduce each of them to you in more details. So journeys, this is this step-by-step guidance, which I was just playing to you in the CRM application in the browser window. I can see the list of all the journeys which are created for this application. And if I click any journey, I can see all the steps which are contained inside the journey. I can play the journey also from the editor. There is completely the same launcher panel as the user can see from the end user perspective. So I can, but here in the editor, I can create the content. I can edit, delete the content, add a new step, edit step. And we have three different types of steps which can be included in the journeys. And the first of them is called callout. If I can show you how to create a callout. This is the specific step which is attached to some specific element on the page, on the application. So it can be used, for example, if I want the user to click some button, to click some link, so then I use callout, because if I click to create a new callout, I can see this selector and I can select any element on the page if I want the user to click here. So then I attached my step here. And the next another type of step is called dialog. If I create a new dialog, you can see that this is the dialog window which is placed in the center of the screen. So this is good to be used for some maybe general information for the user, to welcome the user to the journey, to say him something important. And another type is called panel. This is the third type of step. This is a little bit similar to dialog, but it is not placed in the center of the screen, but it can be placed in all the corners of the screen. And all these types of steps are editable: callouts, dialogues, and tips, all of them. Anytime the content creator can change the title. I can write something here. We can put some text inside, and we can see it inside this step bubble. And we can play also with much more different options, how to edit, how to prepare the content for the users in the best way, because we can change the size of the text, the color of the text. We can insert, for example, a link to some specific journey, to another journey which should be started at this point of guidance. We can insert also link to some application, whatever. So there are really many functions, and this way all these types of steps are editable. I will now move to the tips, which is the second like main part of our product. And these tips are this is that contextual guidance which I was mentioning a little bit earlier in my presentation. And these are not like journeys, or they don't contain many steps, but this is one single bubble, a single tooltip which appears on hover, and it can be visible to the user as this icon. And if I hover the icon, I can see the tip which appears to me. And there can be again some text information. There can be, for example, the link to some knowledge base inside the tip. For example, here in this tip, we can see we can click the link, and the link is opened to us in a new window, for example. So this is the contextual guidance. And playbooks, the last part. Playbooks are the playlists which contain the journeys. And there can be as many journeys as the content creator want or need for his users. And this is good for some kind of sorting of the journeys. If you, for example, have a few journeys which you want your users to, in the first stage of onboarding, to go through 5 specific journeys, and you want your user to really have them in one package. So you put all these journeys into one playbook, and even the user can see how much or how far is he with the playbook, what is his progress. And another important thing to mention here is that content creator can also change the design of this guidance so that it suits the best to the target application based on the design of the application, the colors of the application. So here in the site settings, we can choose from different styles, different designs, how the application, how the guidance should look like. For example, if I switch to the different colors, different theme, so then I can see the guidance in the completely different design. So it really depends what suits the best to your application. So this was the content creator perspective. So how it looks, how our product looks for the one who is preparing the guidance for the users. And the third point of view which I wanted to show to you is maybe more for managers, from managers' perspective. I would like to speak now about analytics section, which is accessible from Neward portal. This is another important part of our product. In portal, I can manage all my sites. Site is this place or this application where I create all my content. Then I can see each specific site in portal. And in the analytics section, there is activity of each user, performance, everything is tracked here. and I can see the numbers, how many users accessed the application, how many journeys have been launched, how many of them have been completed, if there were some journey issues, so that I can maybe focus on adjusting some journeys if they are not, or if my users are facing some troubles there. And all these analytics section can be also adjusted based on the time period. So I can filter, for example, if I want to see only the last week, how my users have been doing within the last week or the last month, last year, I can change it simply here, and I can see all the data from the analytics section. And this is not only for journeys. I can also track playbooks, for example. I can see here in the details of each specific playbook. I can see the users. I can see even the user names and how far they are with the playbook. Those who completed the playbook have completion date and 100% completion, and those who are still in progress, I can see how far they are with the specific playbook. So this is really a very useful tool, how to analyze, how to track the user's performance and the behavior. So this was my live demonstration of our product, and now I would like to pass the word back to Paul again. Thank you.
Thank you, Katerina. That was really good. Thank you. Let me just get my screen back on again. And yes, over to the recap, everything that we've been through today. Hopefully we've kept you entertained. We've still got you on your line, you haven't ran away just yet, but we've covered quite a few things. Obviously the cost of the onboarding being a lot more than what I think people generally perceive it to be, once you take into considerations all of your extra costs, that this actually is a very costly process. It really does make a huge difference if you make a great first impression. Those first impressions, they really do count. We've talked about people who plan to leave if they don't meet the expectations, but we've also talked about the positive impact of having a great onboarding experience, what that actually means to the business, much more productive staff, and they're more productive in a far quicker time as well. So hopefully after the demonstration, we've given you a little bit more of an understanding of what that could look like for your new starters. So without the need of having to sit down and spend time with your VP of product or your manager or your heads of department or whoever it may be, a colleague, and sit with them for hours to understand the systems they use, you could have an entire digital sort of showcase of your product, and you can have all of your business processes explained step by step actually within the software application itself. There's no actual need for anyone to go outside of that system, and they can really and truly learn as they go from day one. So if I going back to my example, I was starting that SaaS software company, and they said to me, Paul, can you run me this report that shows me the customer experience for this period? I could have, if we'd have had Newile in there, access the help menu and run that report literally day one, no questions asked. But what does that mean for a lot of the companies and the customers that we help? Well, a lot of it is just to do with reducing time spent in training, actually reducing the costs of that training as well and this onboarding experience, and reducing the number of queries and the time people put their hand up and ask for help. All of that is vastly reduced when people have access to great guidance right in the place they need it, when they need it. So there's a little bit of a recap of everything that we've been through so far. I think we've given ourselves, we've got about 20 minutes left, hopefully more than enough time to answer any questions that we've had. So I'll open the floor to questions. So one of the questions was, who uses your product the most and for what systems? That's a good question. So, this technology can actually be applied on any web-based applications. But a lot of the most common use cases, for a lot of larger businesses especially, are for their CRM systems or ERP systems. So pretty much every business has a CRM system, like I think I mentioned during my presentation, Salesforce, but as I said, it actually works and can be applied to any web-based application. And quite often, as I said, in larger businesses or businesses where they really want to build that experience where it's second to none. You know, we often talk about things, or people look at things as to be a complete replacement of one or the other. But sometimes these things, especially when you're building a great experience, go hand in hand. So you may well have this as, you know, may well use New Wired's technology to have confidence that, you know, from day one, without having to go through and speak to all of those people and sit down with an hour and talk about navigation training or process training and hope those people make really excellent notes. You can still spend that time together, but that the conversation goes in a much more valuable direction. You're not talking about how do I create an invoice or how do I process an opportunity or whatever the case may be. You're actually talking about things that you get a lot more value out of. So from my perspective, that would have been learning about the product, what the use cases are for it, how customers have used it and some of their great success stories as well. So a lot of customers use it to really enhance that onboarding experience. So when they do come to sit down with people and have conversations, they're much more valuable, and they've got the peace of mind that if they did, you know, if I did say to the John on day one or the new starter on day one, could you run this report or could you raise an invoice for me? I'd know that on hand they'd have that process completely tailored to how we do it here at Me Learning, for example, and they could go through that process step by step, and I wouldn't have to worry that they'd be making any mistakes. So I don't know if I've really answered your question or I've gone off on a bit of a tangent there, but it's really, as I said, it's used for any web-based application, and in this context for onboarding, it's really to help enhance that experience and get people productive in the shorter time as possible. As there's no real ramp-up period here. I don't need to go out and run through a practice mode and say, oh, can you show me what that looks like, and we'll make a dummy opportunity and do that. We can actually do it as I go. Okay. I think that looks like, unless there's any other questions, I'll give you maybe another 30 seconds and then we'll wrap it up. But if there are no other questions coming through, to let you all know, you will all have a copy of this this presentation with all the references and everything from the information that I put together for you. We'll be sending that up in follow-up to you all. Of course, if you've got any questions that you want that you haven't thought of or they come to you as soon as I stop talking, you're more than welcome to email them through. I'll send all my contact details to you. I've got a UK mobile phone number you can call on if needs be, or obviously I'm based in the UK and work around UK hours, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions. But I really want to thank you all again. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it came across well, and now you have a better understanding of how we can really help enhance your onboarding experiences. As I said, I look forward to following up with you, or if you want to follow up with me, I look forward to picking up the conversations. Thank you all.